Has there been a surge in the number of cases when we are looking at diagnosis today?
Numbers are increasing. Are the numbers increasing because more and more people are becoming aware of it? Or is it reflective of something changing in the environment?
Young parents whose children are getting diagnosed, I still feel that hesitation in accepting the diagnosis.
Awareness is changing in the medical field. Preschool teachers are more aware of
Yeah.
how kids are looking different with the access to social media. Many parents do know. I remember one mother telling me, I had chosen the preschool and the school that I wanted my child to go to. Are you telling me that that may not be possible? And I said, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying we're going to make sure that your child can go to that school.
Do disabled children have concept of sexuality or how to handle sexuality?
Very few of us grew up being told about sexuality. So, what do we even tell our children? Leave alone how do we teach a special needs child?
Welcome to The Seat at the Table, a podcast series where we talk about neurodiversity, invisible disabilities, we talk about inclusion, awareness, education, empowerment, and we try to get you voices of stakeholders who are doing some wonderful work in the field. I'm joined today by Dr. Koili Sen Gupta. She is a very renowned developmental pediatrician and doing a lot of great work in the pediatric world and also part of Ummeed. And via your initiatives, you are not just empowering so many people, but also changing the way people look at a new diagnosis, which can be very, very unsettling. So, my first question, Dr. Koili, is are the numbers really rising, or are we just noticing them now? Or has there been a surge in the number of cases when we are looking at diagnosis today?
Um, you start with the trickiest question of them all, Mugdha. But first and foremost, may I just say thank you for having me here on your podcast. You are doing such an important job. So, thank you for doing this. If we look at global trends
Hmm.
and of autism prevalence, especially because that's my area of interest.
Right.
So, yes, the numbers are increasing, right? Now, are the numbers increasing because more and more people are becoming aware of it,
Hmm.
including parents and professionals who pick up on the diagnosis? Or is it reflective of something changing in the environment, as many
Yes.
people are worried
Hmm.
about? Um, I don't think we have come to a point where we have very clear, definitive answers. It's possible it's a combination of both.
Okay. Um, when we talk about acceptance, even as even as a journalist myself, somebody who was born and brought up in a city like Delhi and then moved to Bombay, worked in Bangalore, so many places which are known to have a more robust knowledge
Mm-hmm.
level, awareness levels. It took me a while to
Mm-hmm.
come to terms with how my world was changing as well via
Yeah.
my child, and why me or why my child.
Mm-hmm.
um, but now my son is 15. He was diagnosed at 4.5, so it's been a journey.
Yeah.
But even today, when I meet young parents whose children are getting diagnosed, say at infancy, or at 2 years, uh, and these are younger lot, but I
Mm-hmm.
still feel that hesitation in accepting the diagnosis. uh, has awareness really changed, or has it changed people's way of looking at it?
Yes and no. Has awareness changed? So, when I started working with Umeed 17 years ago, I would say we were getting somewhat older kids
Hmm.
that were referred to us by pediatricians or doctors in the community and often by schools. And these kids would be maybe three, sometimes three and a half, maybe early four. And yes, we are definitely seeing a shift to,
Hmm.
getting referrals for younger kids. So, is awareness changing in our bigger cities? For sure.
Hmm.
Awareness is changing in the medical field. More practitioners are aware of
Hmm.
how do you screen for some of these
Right.
conditions. Um, Teachers are more aware.
Hmm.
Preschool teachers are more aware of
Yeah.
how kids communicate and when kids are, looking different in how they communicate and behave. And many parents, and with the access to social media,
Yeah.
their awareness is definitely changing. So, a few years ago, maybe a decade ago, if I was sharing a diagnosis of autism with a family and I would ask, what do you know about this? And they would be like, we've never heard of this.
Hmm.
But nowadays, many parents do know. And I think access to information and awareness is a good thing,
You're right.
right? And so, is awareness increasing? Yes. But is it increasing similarly across the country? No.
Hmm.
And that has been more, limited to certain
Right.
pockets.
It's almost like I mean, we have spoken to so many professionals who actually say the same thing, that
Mhm.
within India there are so many Indias,
Correct.
and that you will always find that one state has grown exponentially while the other is still struggling. That may be true. Having said that, reaction of a parent, perhaps on hearing the word autism, is just the same. How important does it become then to first look at the caregiver mental health? And uh, I think the narrative that autism and other uh, learning disabilities and disorders can be best also handled if it's a teamwork of
Mhm.
the parent and doctors.
Mhm. Responses to knowing that your child is going to be different from what you imagined or hoped for are going to be
I know.
hard,
Yeah.
right? I mean, um, and I think that's what's a diagnosis often means to
Yeah.
parents, that you're telling me that what I'd hoped and imagined for my child may look different
Yeah.
from what's going to be. And I
Yeah.
remember one mother telling me, these snippets stay with you. And she said that, doctor, I had chosen the preschool and the school that I wanted my child to go to. Are you telling me that that may not be possible? And I said, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that over the years, we're going to make sure that your child can go to that school.
Hmm.
And for that, we have to change attitudes.
Hmm.
We have to ensure that your child gets optimal intervention.
Hmm.
We have to help you take charge of your emotions and take care of your mental
Yeah.
health. Together as a community of professionals and school educators, we have to acquire the
Yeah.
skills to support your children,
Yeah.
right? So, is it teamwork? Yes, it is
Hmm.
teamwork.
I always wonder, how do you explain to a parent what is the prognosis of autism? What does it mean in today's day and age
Mm-hmm.
to have a child who's on the spectrum?
Mm-hmm.
What does the future hold for them? Because a lot of times we are only so concentrated on the now and present
Mm-hmm.
that it doesn't give us the bandwidth of future planning. Whereas, unlike any other aspect of life,
Mm-hmm.
where you're asked to be grounded in present,
Yeah.
this is something that you also need to have the foresight of planning the future.
Yeah.
What do you tell parents when they come to you
Mm-hmm.
about what to expect
Mm-hmm.
now that you have the diagnosis?
I think that's the most common question, most commonly encountered question that we face as
Hmm.
pediatricians and developmental pediatricians. That can you please tell me if my child will be normal?
Hmm.
Can you please tell me if he or she will go to a regular school,
Yeah.
will have a relationship, will hold a job?
Hmm.
Um, and today, Mugdha, more than say 15 years ago, I think with the way things are changing, yes,
Yeah.
spaces, attitudes are becoming more inclusive. And for sure, there is way more possibility that our neurodiverse children are going to be part of inclusive schools,
Hmm.
are going to hold jobs, maybe even have meaningful relationships,
Yeah.
right? So things are changing.
Hmm.
And of course, there is absolute value in providing parents that things are changing. Your
Hmm.
child is going to make progress. Now, can I make absolute predictions today? Not.
Perhaps not. Yeah.
But you and
Absolutely.
me, what we are going to do is we're going to support the child And over across this journey, we will learn better about the child, what their
Hmm.
interests are, what's going to take them
Yeah.
further, what's going to take them ahead.
Yeah.
So we set the tone for a collaborative journey
Hmm.
and set the tone for, right from the beginning, learning to focus on the strengths of the kids and
Yeah.
not just get caught up in what he or she can't
Yeah.
do.
Today we are sitting at this conference, which is talking about inclusive education, and I had the privilege of attending your much celebrated workshop, because everybody was so happy after attending it, and it's also a very meaningful
Yeah.
subject, and it explores the concept of sexuality
Mm-hmm.
in children with disability, which is either not spoken about or
Mm-hmm.
spoken with a lot of shame
Mm-hmm.
or is hushed away,
Mm-hmm.
because one of the things that comes to people's mind is uh, that do disabled children have concept of sexuality or
Mm-hmm.
how to handle sexuality. I think one of the things that I as a parent also struggle with my own son
Mm-hmm.
is, when do I know
Mm-hmm.
that when do I know what to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
How do I monitor his behaviors in a way that I can
Mm-hmm.
tell him what
Mm-hmm.
is appropriate and what is not appropriate?
Mm-hmm.
But it takes so much mental makeup of the
Yeah.
caregiver as well.
Yeah.
So, if I were to ask you about the challenges that you as a professional also face while talking to parents about sexuality,
Mm-hmm.
and how to look at it
Mm-hmm.
in their children who are perhaps not neurotypical,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of those challenges that you face and what are some of the challenges they come with?
Mm-hmm.
I can definitely speak for myself,
Mm-hmm.
which is that my biggest challenge is that he's semi-verbal,
Mm-hmm.
and with comprehension,
Mm-hmm.
which with lack of dialogue makes
Yeah.
me feel that is he absorbing or
Yeah.
not. So it makes it difficult for me
Yeah.
to gauge the situation.
Yeah.
What would you say are the challenges then?
Mugdha, you just enlisted so many of the challenges so well. One of the biggest challenges is when children have high support needs, parents are really struggling to prioritize what
What to
all,
do?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
what all they need to work on, right? I mean, should you work on getting the child to be toilet trained, or should you focus on getting the child to be able to sit in the classroom, or should you focus
Absolutely.
on getting him to be able to go down the stairs independently, or do you focus
Cross the
on, yeah,
street or
yeah.
oh,
So all of those. So
list is
that's,
endless.
yeah, the list is endless. So that's one. What do you prioritize? The second thing is, of course, as you said, um, to prepare for sexuality and all that it means, there are so many things. A, does the child get it?
Hmm.
Are we ready to teach? What are our cultural barriers, thoughts, ways of processing about how we've learned about sexuality?
True.
Right? I mean, honestly, when very few of us grew up being told about sexuality. So, what do we even tell our children?
Yeah.
Leave alone, how do we teach a special needs child, right? So, I think there's so many things. And so, what happens is parents will often seek help when they are in the midst of a crisis.
Right.
Maybe the child is 12 or the child is already 13, and school is complaining that they've touched somebody inappropriately, or something's happened and it's not right. And our what we are trying to take the message ahead is that start early, prepare early. Our children may need concepts to be taught in simple ways over and over again across multiple
Hmm.
situations, right? So look for these opportunities right from the beginning. Start teaching about privacy, about body parts, about where to engage in private, acts related to our private body parts, what are private spaces in the house. So starting there, so that at later in the later years you're able to have those conversations about, okay, you need to have your private time, you can go to your own room,
Got it. Hmm.
right? So those, it's so important that we somehow have conversations and dialogues with caregivers so that they are able to find time in their own busy schedules
How early is early?
Early enough, right? Just look for opportunities to start talking about private and public to your child. It could be when you want the child to keep their clothes on, or change in the bathroom, or when the bedroom doors are closed. Start talking about, the mall is a public space. What is private or public in your house? I think those are things that people can start off with early. Start talking about private body parts. Those people, parents don't need to wait. It's part of growing up. Good practice to teach whether or not your child has a disability, is neurodiverse. So those are good things to talk about. Start talking about, and implementing, who is it okay to get a hug from, right? Who they can go and sit in, whose lap can they go and sit? Being more circumspect about, respecting the child's preferences for, do they actually want to go and hug? Do they want to be picked up by everybody? So those are things that, it's being more responsive also to the child's cues, and also slowly changing the environment around the child, knowing that, of course, the child is going to grow, have bodies that are changing, minds that are changing. So I think a little bit of readiness right from the beginning, if possible, in the midst of all that, parents are already working on.
A huge part of your work is also advocacy with Umeed
Mm-hmm.
and empowering more professionals working with parents.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some of the challenges that we see are with inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
So to say, the lack of inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
I feel if we were in a more inclusive world, parents would have been much better in their acceptance and embracing journeys.
Sure.
So when you look at inclusion, what do you feel needs to be done immediately, or perhaps a 4 5 pointer on how we can be a little more inclusive, how we can treat others a little more inclusively. What do you tell parents, and what do you tell people you meet about their encounters with the autistic individuals?
Mm-hmm. Many people are now even saying that, inclusion is just a right, right?
Mhm.
So I think that that's the first thing, that it's a rights based perspective. It is not a privilege that we bestow on people,
Hmm.
and that every person has the right to be included in activities that they choose to and would like to be a part of, to bring that rights based perspective to it. The second thing is for all of us around the child and the family to work on acknowledging that everybody is different, that we are all somewhere on the spectrum of neurodiversity,
Hmm.
right? I mean, we call ourselves, or some of us may call ourselves neurotypical, but we are somewhere dots along the entire spectrum of neurodiversity, to be very honest. And to be able to have more empathy and understanding of those whose ways of communicating, ways of being, ways of, enjoying life and meaning look different from us. And at the same time, trying to see, um, what are those little things that we can change in our lives just to make sure that everybody has a place at the table,
Hmm.
right? What can we do? So I will often tell parents about finding those allies in the playground, about talking to other little kids that your child plays with, explaining to them why your son or daughter, or your child plays differently, and what does that child's play or communication mean, right? So exclusion often stems from lack of knowledge, lack of knowing. And many parents and even others that I meet outside of the circle of children with disabilities and their parents have acknowledged that, we sometimes don't know what to do.
Hmm.
We
Yeah.
don't know what we can do to support another child. And I think it's both. It's reaching out to the family and maybe to the young person that, we would really love to have you over. What would help?
Hmm.
At the same time, maybe doing a little bit of their own bit
Yeah.
reading up, finding out information about what we
Mm.
can do different, right?
Mm.
So, and there's just quite a bit of information available now.
True.
So, for people to access that, showing the willingness to change a little bit and to be able to accept a little bit of discomfort for themselves,
Mm.
right? That
Mm.
it's okay. I mean, for all of us to enjoy this together, some will have to do a little bit more than the others,
Yeah.
and that's fine.
Mm. What would you say would be your message to parents who have been newly diagnosed with 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 a life that is going to be different?
I think all parents need to know that the children have incredible potential to learn, like any other child, and that their child will make progress. That child will learn new things, that they will find joy together, that they will do things that they enjoy, right? And that they will do many of the things that they had hoped to be able to do. It may it may look a little different.
Hmm.
It may take a little bit more time,
Yeah.
but many of the things that they had hoped for will happen.
Well, I think that's a beautiful note and a hopeful note to end our conversation on, that it may take time, but one shouldn't lose hope, and that things
Yeah.
will be different,
Yeah.
but different is nice as well.
Different is nice. I think more than anything, right? That different is nice, and that together we need to be able to acknowledge that different is nice.
Thank you so much, Doc, for
Thank you for
taking out your
having
time.
me.
Thank you so much.